Welcome to the commentary booth where we watch, and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play-by-play commentator, Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by an impact fee technician who lists their favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street and favourite TV show as Golden Girls. Welcome to the show, Karina Maybe.
Thank you for having me back.
My pleasure. The reason I would die in the Quiet Place universe.
Me? Nah, you're full of fucking shit.
You would sneeze and we'd all be fucked.
Go fuck yourself, alright? Now that the entire fucking online universe knows about my sneezing,
It's
they're
loud.
just lucky that they haven't experienced it yet.
It's loud.
It's so loud.
It's especially loud when you've got
it.
headphones in and she sneezes in your ear.
I've only done that once, everybody. But it is especially loud in person when you're inside of a house and somebody inside of a garage hears it and then goes, "Is everything okay?"
Yeah, it's something. It's something to behold.
That was my first introduction to your mom. I wasn't even there like a week and he had already sneezed.
One day you'll sneeze on the podcast and everyone will be like, what the fuck?
No, because you'll edit it out so I don't hurt everybody.
I might just dim the volume. I'll leave it in, but I'll dim the volume a little bit.
It is pretty bad, though, when I've scared like 2 out of or 3 male people at work, and I'm afraid to scare the third one because she might keel over. So I hold my nose every time she comes in because I don't want to leave.
Oh, boy. So this week, we return to the world of Silence and Monsters as we revisit A Quiet Place Part 2 in preparation for A Quiet Place Day 1, which is very imminent. So A Quiet Place Part 2 is the 2020 sequel to 2018's post-apocalyptic horror film directed by John Krasinski. This time around, we continue to follow the family from the first film after they have learnt that the alien predators can be defeated using high-frequency audio, and they now set out to look for other survivors. Big factor in this one, the pandemic hit right when this movie was due to be released. So a lot of delays before this movie finally came out. Probably one of the major factors in the box office not being quite as impressive as the first movie. They increased the budget from 17 million up to 61 million for this sequel. But the box office went down from, 300 and something down to 297.4 million worldwide. So rough, but I guess with the timing of the release, the multiple delays, the situation that they ended up releasing into with limited cinemas and limited capacities, understandable. So I feel like they're probably still happy with almost $300 million. Like they almost more than tripled, 6 times their budget. So I guess they're happy. They're still happy with it. Obviously happy enough that they're doing a spin-off sequel and a canonical sequel next year as well. So obviously still happy with it. Just probably not as happy as they would have been if this had come out in a regular situation.
Yeah, I feel like maybe the only thing that really helped them is the fact that streaming services were became such a big thing. So people were still able to go see it. It was just a matter of that not really counting towards the box office numbers like they want. But I feel like if they had...
I think this was one of the first ones where they were like, oh yeah, it's going to be in the cinemas, but you can also like just pay to stream it straight away.
Yeah, and I feel like if streaming numbers had an effect on like box office numbers necessarily during like the pandemic, if they had just taken those and put them together, this probably would have done a lot better like number wise. But I mean, it still did fantastic.
And they're probably going to have to start doing that at some point soon anyway, because the way cinema box office numbers are going.
Yeah.
Theaters are not looking long in this world.
No, I mean, we've just gotten spoiled. Like for me, it takes something absolutely insane to go and see. Granted, I did see like the first
The
Omen,
first
but that
Omen.
was just
I was gonna say that
because I had to go
that's
see it.
that was one of those movies that you're like, I have to see that one in the cinema.
No, well, that was like an exception. I hadn't seen a movie in like fucking forever, and then I went and saw the first Omen, and not necessarily like the best thing I fucking chose to watch, but generally I would go, and even prior to COVID, I was always the one that would go and see like cinematic big things like the Harry Potter series, Lord of the Rings. Dune would have been something that I had seen in theaters had I had the funds and timing and shit. Um, but yeah, like there's certain movies that just come out that are not gonna have me sitting in a movie theater, especially with the fact that like now I can just stream something like a month or two later and I can pause it in the middle of a 3-hour movie and go pee and not miss anything. Like
A month or two.
it was
That's
just,
generous. The Fall Guys, like 2 weeks.
I mean, oh, I was talking about Dune. Dune was like like a couple months, I think. That just came to max, but
Yeah. The Fall Guy.
yeah,
I
it's
think
just,
that's like 2 weeks, and it's already available.
yeah, that's pretty rough. But
Jesus.
yeah, like like 3-hour movies like Oppenheimer, for instance. Like I know you went and saw it in the theaters. I don't think I could have like lasted through a movie theater with Oppenheimer. So you know, we're very spoiled with the fact that streaming has just become such a big thing. And I think that's where eventually everything's going to go to, is like going to a movie theater is going to be like a thing of the past, essentially, in the next
Yeah.
like 5-10 years, probably.
I did Oppenheimer, Napoleon, and Civil War, and Furiosa. They're all over two
Close
and
to
a
three
half
hours or more.
hours, or some of them over 3 hours.
Yeah.
Sat through the entire things. Didn't even pee once.
Oh, I'm proud of you because you got the bladder of a 5-year-old. So.
Especially when I'm at home and I know I can pause it. Oh, this is not good. But when I'm
I
sitting
know
in
we
this,
can't get through fucking a movie like without stopping 3 times, and you're just like,
if I'm in a cinema, I'm fine. I can hold out.
you're committed.
I also don't drink a lot when I'm seeing a movie in a cinema that I know is going to be 3+ hours. I'm like, I'll get my
Yeah.
drink and I'll just do little sippy sips. I'm not one of those people that like you get your drink and your popcorn and you finish it before the preview's finished. Like I don't touch
Oh
my
my
stuff until the actual movie starts. That's my hard fast rule. Don't open the popcorn and don't take a sip of the drink until the actual movie begins.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Because if I start eating that popcorn in the preview, I'm having no popcorn left by the movie.
Ditto. So yeah, I mean, it's like, is it like, you know, eventually they're gonna have to take into consideration streaming numbers, at least within like the first like couple weeks or something like that, maybe, or because I mean, opening week's gonna be kind of hard unless they just go exclusively to streaming only soon. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm trying to think what's coming up that like has the potential to be like, oh yeah, everyone needs to go see that in the cinema. And it's like Furiosa was the thing. And nobody went and saw it in the cinema.
yeah. To be fair, I think I don't think it came out yet over here, or it just came out this past weekend, which was
Yeah,
a
last
holiday
weekend. Yeah,
weekend.
Memorial Weekend.
Yeah. So that's not like an ideal time to go release a movie necessarily. Um,
Holiday weekends are normally good because you get 3 or 4 days counted in your box office instead of 2. And yeah, it just
yeah.
did not work.
It didn't. It did not. So I don't know, but we'll see what happens moving forward with films and stuff like that, and how they adapt to, you know, movie theater audiences or the lack thereof. You know.
Yeah, because the things coming up and the one that I think will probably break the trend is Deadpool and Wolverine. That's probably the only one that is going to be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's gonna break that trend of box office numbers are a bit soft.
Yeah. Wolverine Deadpool is gonna happen, and then
Twisters
I
might
have a feeling
do pretty well for the nostalgia.
that might do it well, and then Beetlejuice might do something, just because there's so many generations that I've grown like that have seen the original Beetlejuice movie. So that might reel in a lot of the old time folks, like, well, old time fucking me because I'm fucking ancient. And then like the newer generation. So that might happen. And then I do feel like Wicked is gonna have a major impact on the box office if the reviews come in well for it, because there are so many theater nerds like myself that have been waiting years for Wicked. So,
Yep. I think
but not a lot.
the other one that I could see doing phenomenal numbers, I have pretty high hopes for M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. That trailer was great.
Is that the one that's coming out with Josh Hartnett where he's like the serial killer at the concert or something?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. I know
That
what you're talking
trailer
about.
looks sick.
It does. It's a very interesting.
Uh-oh.
It's not your normal Shyamalan movie, or at least I don't feel like it is. It's very interesting. I'm excited to see it. It's a very unique concept.
People love a good Shyamalan twist movie, so that could go well.
Yeah.
Joker Folie et Deux is probably one that will do quite well, but it's another one where I wouldn't be shocked if the box office numbers are very soft on that.
Yeah,
I hope it does well,
but
it could be very soft.
I feel like the first Joker that came out, it was not what, like, there are people that love it, and then there are people that hate it because the people who hate it don't understand it. There is no
like,
like
where's
in
Batman?
between. It's a very artsy, like, coming, like, origin story, and a lot of people don't understand that that's what it was supposed to be. A lot of them were like, "Where's Bruce Wayne?" I don't see Bruce Wayne, and I'm just like, "This is how he got to be." Woo! And you just don't understand it. So I think
the amount of
if
people
anything,
that I saw after that movie that were like, "Where's Batman?" I'm like, "Oh, you're an idiot."
Yeah, I feel like Joker, if it doesn't do well in the box office, I feel like it's going to do very well with critics. It'll probably win some awards, just because it's the first one was great. So,
and then the last one I think that could do great is the Gladiator sequel.
I didn't even know there was a new Gladiator movie coming out. So
yeah, buddy, there's a new Gladiator coming out.
That's like 10 years too late.
10. It's like a 25-year-old movie now.
Oh, is that how? God damn! I keep thinking things were like 10 years ago because I just don't want to admit that I'm like fucking older in my mid 30s. But yeah, it's like when I hear that things are like 25, I'm like, fuck me.
It's a 24-year-old movie, 2000.
Jesus Christ, I remember when that came out because I thought that was like the coolest fucking movie.
Yeah.
That was like a great movie.
24-year-old movie.
Yeah, god damn. Fuck. I feel old now because I loved Gladiator movie. When 300 came out, I was like fucking hardcore with 300 when that was released, and I know that's fucking old too. And I'm just like, god damn, like
that was the last good Zack Snyder movie.
I was gonna say, and I feel like I look back and I look at some of these movies, I'm like, wow, we had some great movies in like the early 2000s. What the fuck happened?
Yeah. That 300 movie influenced so much of cinema for the next like 10 years.
And then everything went to shit.
And then Zack Snyder tried to do it again and lost the plot.
Fucked it all up.
Just too much CG, too much slow-mo.
I never saw the second 300 movie that came out, by the way.
There's a second 300 movie? Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there was. Don't worry about it. Just keep it off the list because it ain't necessary.
I didn't think it would be.
Nope.
Considering as the first one is based on a real event, and I don't know what the second one would be based on.
It's kind of like when you make a sequel just to make a sequel because the first
one did so great.
Well. So you're like, how can we? How can we capitalize on this?
Yeah, that's definitely the studio being like, oh, we're leaving money on the table if we don't follow up on that. No, you're not. 100%. No, you're not. Do something new.
No one asked for it. No one needed it. But
like they could have stayed. They could have stayed in that universe. Like, do some more Greek or like Athens mythology, Spartan mythology, but just base it on a different event.
Yeah, it's
just don't do a straight sequel. That's dumb.
Yeah, it came out. I don't remember when it came out. It came out. Yeah, I think somewhere near. Hold on, now I've got my head's going over there. Sorry.
2006.
Rise of an Empire. That's what it was. It came out in 2014.
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that.
Nope. It's about a different battle. But
yeah. Takes place before, during, and after the main events of the original film. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That sounds terrible. Because there are some great Spartan battles in history, and they did some weird shit like that where they tried to combine a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, so 300 Rise of an Empire is definitely not necessary. And that's, again, 2014 is like mid 2000s where the original one came out in early 2000s and it was so much better.
I'm just reading on Wikipedia. There's a section titled "Sequel." In a 2016 interview, Snyder stated that more sequels to 300 would focus on topics beyond ancient Greece, such as the American Revolutionary War, the Battle of the Alamo, or a battle in China.
That's a.
No.
I'm glad none of that has happened.
Revolutionary War or Civil War in the US would have been cool, but like, Zach, no, leave it alone.
No.
And then
Just
in May
stick to-
2021, he said that he had written an Alexander the Great film that was intended to function as a conclusion to the 300 trilogy. Bro, I didn't even know it had 2.
You were just like, what? If that ever happened and came out, you would have just been like, wait, what happened to the second one? You would have been like, what trilogy?
The script was retitled Blood and Ashes, but it failed to be greenlit by the Warner Brothers Pictures. Yeah, no wonder.
I wonder why.
Sounded like a dumb idea. 2023, Snyder. Oh, God. Snyder revealed that he has regained the rights for Blood and Ashes from Warner Brothers, and he's planning on developing the film in the future.
I'm so glad we went down this path of destruction, literally, for
Just
you.
stick to your Rebel Moon universe, you jackass.
But he didn't even do that right.
Historical fiction movies.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The Velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, I'll tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Pario Magazine. That's PARIO magazine.com.au/AUSWRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards.
Oh, after that 20-minute tangent, A Quiet Place
Back
Part 2.
to our regularly scheduled program.
Quiet Place Part 2, starring Emily Blunt, adding in Cillian Murphy as her friend Emmett, returning with Noah Jupe and Millicent Simmons as Marcus and Regan. And then we also get, I always struggle with this guy's name, Jimon Honsu?
The guy from Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
That's how I know him all the time.
He's in a bunch of stuff.
He's also, isn't he in the new Day One movie?
Is he?
I thought he was. I thought I saw him in the trailer. Even though I didn't see the whole trailer. I thought he was in it.
He might be. Let me have a look.
My eyeballishes.
He is.
Sorry. Bam! Look at that. See,
so that's how great. I just realized how that movie's going to work now.
Bum, bum, bum. You're welcome.
It's going to be how he ends up on the island. I wish I hadn't done that.
Spoiler alert, this is how this is going to happen.
Well, there we go. Quiet Place Day 1. Let's just go home now. We already know how it's going to happen. Fuck.
We already know how it's going to end.
I thought it was supposed to be totally separate. Nah. God damn it. Now I'm sad. Good on you.
If I could ruin your day twice within like 10 minutes, it's the best day ever for me over here. It was like a double whammy on this fucking episode.
Joy, oh joy, oh joy. Great.
Anyway, Quiet Place Part 2.
But yeah, so speaking of day one, this movie begins on day one of the invasion, where we see Lee Abbott, John Krasinski's character, in his very brief period in this movie where he's actually on screen, we see him walking through the same store from the opening of Quiet Place, the first one.
Just Quiet Place.
And we hear some TV news reports of an invasion in some of the capital cities. The people that are in the store are like, oh, what was it? Was it a bomb? Was it like a terror attack or something? So you get all that sort of stuff, which is, awkward.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you notice the little Easter egg that we see in that moment in the store?
The spaceships?
Yeah, the little panning shot goes right past the space shuttles on the shelf.
The spaceship.
I was like, dang, that's sad.
Yeah, kind of a sad moment there.
But yeah, very well done. Like, it's a great callback to, hey, remember these things? These are actually here, and these are gonna fuck some kid up later.
Yeah.
So then, Lee leaves the store. We go to the baseball field, and we meet Cillian Murphy's character Emmett at the Little League game. We get some more they're listening to the news on the radio, and they're getting some sort of radio interference. We see a bunch of the dogs are sitting there, and they're really spooked. Like, what's going on here? And then we see fire in the sky, and it's like, oh shit, stuff's going down.
Yeah, it was very abrupt. There wasn't any preemptive anything. It was just kind of everyone's going about their day, and then, oh hey, look, there's shit in the sky.
Mm-hmm. And one of my notes is there's already more dialogue in this movie than there was in the entirety of the first one.
100%.
Which makes sense.
5 minutes.
It's day one, and they're not worried about being quiet yet.
No, and they're just completely what's happening. Nobody even knows how to register anything. It just happens all so fast.
And there's also a cool moment in this part where they set the foundations for a very pivotal moment later in the movie where Regan teaches Emmett the word or the sign language for dive.
Yep.
And just
love that.
I was like, that's a weird thing to teach someone, but then it later pays off in the end.
Yes.
And this opening sequence, solid, has a great circle loop back to the end of the first film when we see Marcus cowering behind the car, covering his ears as the cop is attacked by the monster.
Yeah.
And then it does
in.
a smooth transition across to the final scene of the first film where he's in the same position, hiding in the cupboard, hands on his ears as his mum and sister kill a monster for the first time.
Yeah, it's a very it is one of my favorite transitions of current of recent movies. It's such a good transition. You don't have a hard introduction and then a hard pause or whatever like that. It's just a very fluid flashback to normal current times.
Yeah. But the thing I sort of don't enjoy about this intro is it does set up that this is going to be a much more action heavy movie, with the scene in the car where they're driving down the street and then they have to jump on the brakes and chuck it in reverse and all of that sort of stuff. It is highlighting that, hey, there's going to be a lot more action and craziness happening in this movie, but it doesn't really set the emotional tone for what the movie's going to be. It's just hey, prepare for more action, which I guess makes sense because I guess probably one of the big criticisms of that first one is you barely see the monsters and there's really only action in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, it sets it up really well. The first one is a really good foundation film. I feel like this one it did its part for being a part 2 / this is my continuing journey with this family to see what happens next, since they are literally screwed out of their previous dwelling for the most part now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. They're forced to leave the farm, and in doing so, we see them get to the end of their safe sand path, and it's okay, now we're venturing into sort of unknown, scary territory, and I think that's the moment where this really switches to being a real tense film. Up until then, it's kind of it's fun. Yes, there are monsters, but people are combating it and doing what they need
Yeah.
to do. There's no tension because we know these people get out of day one. Like they don't get killed on this opening sequence. So it's just a matter of like seeing how they manage to escape.
Yeah, I feel like that the end of their sand path is like one of those moments where, you know, when you're a kid and they tell you like don't go past like a certain point, like don't go past your driveway or don't go past like your neighbor's house. Like this is that moment of uncertainty, but like at the same time it's kind of like a curiosity moment too. Because obviously they want to see what's further out because, you know, from the first film they know that there are other people out there just from the like little torches that get lit every night or whatever. So the fact that they're able to navigate themselves towards like the next point is interesting.
And yeah, like they're heading off and we don't really know where they're heading, but then we eventually get to a point where we meet this man who like this mysterious man who like jumps out at them, and probably not the greatest way to introduce yourself to someone, like when you're trying to be silent. That's a great way to make someone scream, but oh well. And I forgot that he is Emmett from the opening sequence. Like it's been that long since I watched Quiet Place Part 2, and I just remember, oh yeah, they go and meet this guy and then they go on this like adventure thing, and I just thought he was a dude. And then when I was rewatching it and he pops up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the guy from the start.
Yep.
Cillian Murphy's character. And I just, in my memory, I just never connected those. They were just like two separate people.
Anyway, Cillian Murphy in this movie, I kind of forgot he was in this movie because he has a hat on and a beard and it's weird. Because I'm used to him like
in full Peaky
most
Blinders
recently,
mode,
like
shaved.
Yeah, like he's got the U haircut and like, you know, always on a horse and smoking a fucking cigarette. So it's very strange to see him like manly beard thing and a hat and a fucking rifle.
It's like when they're talking about the 28 Days Later sequel that they're making at the moment.
Which is crazy to me because, again, that's like another 20-year-old movie.
Yeah, and
like,
it's crazy to think that he's in the original. He's the main character in the original.
That was my first introduction to Cillian Murphy, was that movie, and then Red Eye, which I just rewatched, by the way, which was awesome. But yeah, it's just so weird to see him in this kind of role for me, because it's just he just looks like a good old boy with his rifle, like get off my property kind of moment.
Yeah, so like I forgot that they had that connection, and it made. Then I started to think like, were they intentionally trying to get to him because they knew he was there? He had a safe compound. Like, let's go to Emmett, and then we can regroup and then decide what we go and do from there.
Yeah,
because
it was
the way it sort of plays out, it seems like unintentional, like they just stumbled across him. But looking back on it now, with like hindsight of what the overall movie ends up being, it's like, oh, maybe they were intentionally going to him. Like, we need help.
Yeah. And also, mind you, they're doing this carrying the fucking soundproof box of a nursery bassinet thing. Like, and an oxygen tank for this newborn little baby who is a baby and doesn't know how to shut the fuck up. So, yeah, that's fun. We see how much of a pansy bitch the brother is again.
Yeah, he's worse in this movie.
Yeah,
he's much worse in this movie.
Like, I expected him to kind of mature a little bit.
He's fucking useless in this movie.
He's not the man of the house, that's for fucking sure. Like, the daughter wears the pants in this house. I'm sorry.
I feel like, yeah, if there was a time jump, it would have made sense. But because this carries on straight from day 473, like, it's understandable he's a little bit traumatized. Like, he just watched his father basically commit suicide to save him.
Yeah, but then that should like tell you, hey, I need to step up. I'm the man of the house now. Like, let me keep my mom and sister and new baby safe. But no, this one's just like, I don't know how to do anything.
But as they stumble across Emmett's compound, I do love that, like, the way that they protect themselves is you don't need like traps that'll kill someone. You just need traps that'll make people make a fuck ton of noise. So there's like all of these trip wires that are attached to just like bundles of glass bottles and cans and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's got those set up. We also see that play in later too with the sort of like cannibal raider group that they encounter at the marina. They tie
Yes.
bottles and cans around Emmett's neck so like he can't move because they'll make noise.
Yep.
And then Marcus the dumbass steps in a bear trap and just screams hysterically. Like, I get it. That would have fucking hurt. But in this universe you need to shut the fuck up, so shut the fuck up.
His mom stepped on a nail in her bare foot while pregnant.
I feel like
and not just like stepped on it, it went through her fucking foot in the first one.
I
Like,
feel like a bear trap probably hurts a little bit more though.
oh my God. He's a young kid. It was probably a really skinny angle. He probably, it just went probably clean through the bone and broke it. It would have been fine.
I guess it depends what sort of bear trap it was. Is it one of the ones with just like the flat edges? Or is it one of the ones with the claws?
It was like the claw. It was the claw one. Like the bear trap.
Yeah, so that would have hurt like a mother because that's basically cutting your foot off. That's basically
Whatever.
biting your foot off.
At that point, you probably should have just amputated it and called it a day.
Because later in the movie, he's walking fine.
Yeah.
Like there's issues in this movie compared to the first one where everything made sense.
There are spots in this movie that did not make sense, but I really like this one.
But yeah, so Marcus is screaming hysterically. The mother's trying to shut him up. Then the baby starts crying.
Of course.
But the monsters are very slow to appear. Like in the first one,
they were on point.
The little kid sets off the rocket ship and he's like swarmed before Lee even has time to run back and pick him up. Yeah. This one, old mate's screaming like a maniac. They open the baby box. The baby starts crying. Still no fucking monsters anywhere. They gather their shit and start to like walk away, and then they realize, oh shit, the monsters are coming. And then Regan pulls out a hearing aid thing, sets it off, and then Emmett gets to see them kill the monster, and he's like, oh shit, I need these people to help me.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, how far away were these monsters?
I was gonna say, maybe they were just like maybe they were still like really preoccupied with the house. So who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, they don't really say how far they walked, but like I believe this is obviously the place they were going where they could see the torch being lit. So like they had communication with Emmett, but it doesn't seem that far with how fast these monsters move.
It's true.
They took their sweet ass time to get there. I was like, I would have been much more. Like that makes me think the tripwires with the bottles, not that effective if a monster's going to take 5 minutes to get here. Like these people are going to be in my shit.
Yeah.
Like if old mate hadn't stepped on the bear trap, they would have been inside your compound before the monster got there.
That's true. Yeah.
And then you just have a goddamn monster roaming around.
Where'd it go? Yeah. I don't know. It is kind of weird, the timing. It's a bit strange.
And then, like, Emmett's compound. Effective if you're by yourself. Not effective when you have a group. Because you have to go in that underground vault thing.
Yeah.
But it's airtight. So you can only go in there for a certain period of time before the oxygen runs out. So
yes.
This seems like a very poor choice of place to hide out.
Yeah, but I feel like it's one of those moments where you just kind of like have to take advantage of what's around you. So like if that's the only thing that he knows of that could be airtight.
Jerry rigged up some sort of airflow situation.
I mean, yeah, after that long, because obviously you are under the impression he's been there for as long as they were at their
at least a year
farmhouse. So at least a year. You would have thought that he would have somehow found a way to get like an air circulation.
Yeah, like you only need just like I guess a big long ass hose that goes up and out, and just have the end of the hose be heaps far away. So like if any sound does come out of it, the monsters are way over there, not where you are.
Yeah, but then you have to think about it too. They're very limited on how they can like construct things. So like if you're trying to make as little noise as possible, it's not like you can weld things together.
Yeah, true. You're not drilling a hole through a vault.
Yeah, like it's fucking steel.
They'd be on your ass.
Yeah, like there's no easy way of doing that. So I feel like for what their situation is, he made the best of it, and he had the timer, so he knew exactly how long he was able to stay in there with the air.
That's another thing. How'd he work that out?
Probably trial and error.
That's not a fun trial and error. Because
Well,
the
he
way
did.
you realize that I can't last past this time is you pass out.
Well, he didn't have. He wasn't by himself the whole time, so maybe he just stuck his kid in there for like experiment time, for science.
So that's how he ends up by himself.
There you go.
Okay, kids can go in for 5 minutes, adults can go in for 7 minutes.
Yeah, like let's just keep a journal of how long it took my wife to pass the fuck out
Mm,
from lack of
yeah,
oxygen.
I don't know. That seems sketchy.
Like knock on it. Hey, honey, are you feeling woozy?
Yeah, that was one thing I was like, what? How does he know that that's the amount of time? Or is it just like
Maybe it's just like
I started to get short of breath, so I pulled the pin, and that's my limit.
yeah, maybe it's just like a rough estimate. Like I don't want to go any further than this amount of time, so I'm just gonna. This is like a safe bet kind of thing.
But then when there's
But
like,
regardless, like,
don't they all climb in there at one point? And there's like 4 or 5 people in this thing. That's
well,
got
there's the baby in the box that's got its own oxygen, and then the mom, the 2 kids, and the dude all go in there at one time. So yeah, that's like a lot of people in at one time.
yeah. So there's 4 people in there. That's going to significantly reduce the amount of time you can be in there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it will.
I don't know. I didn't really like his hideout. I'd have been looking for another option. Option 2, please.
Yeah.
Plan B.
Plan B.
But yeah, as the movie progresses, we sort of learn that the people that have survived the outbreak for this long, or the invasion for this long, are now just as dangerous as the monsters. Like even their encounter with Emmett and like his traps and sound warning systems and stuff like symbolize that he's had to deal with some dodgy people, some dodgy shit. So they're a little bit wary of that sort of stuff. And then later in the film, Emmett and Regan have the encounter with the bandits at the wharf. Cannibals? Are they cannibals?
So that whole tribe of people, and that's what I'm going to call them, as a tribe, their characters are the only thing for me that kind of felt out of place in this movie, because there was no reason for them, and they weren't around long enough to really explain what their reasoning was, or how like they were together, or how they came about. It was kind of, when I first saw this movie years ago, I never really thought about it
It was
that
just
way,
to
but
have a
now
threat
that
in there that wasn't the monsters at some point.
yeah, and so now that I've seen it again, and I've seen shows like The Walking Dead where there are different groups of people, I kind of wanted them to explain it a little bit more, like, hey, these people have survived this long on the boats because of this reason, and this is why they are the way they are, but they're just kind of no rhyme or reason to them.
Yeah, I didn't get the sense that they were living on the boats, though. I got more of a sense that these are people that are like sort of nomadic a little bit.
Yeah.
And like that's why they've kind of gone a little bit feral and cannibalistic at times. Like they roam around and they just make do with whatever they can find, and if it happens to be a people, well, they'll eat the people. And like they've worked out how to fucking bait people in with the kid. And then,
which also was really creepy. She was like a creepy fucking little kid.
Yeah, and then like their like trap system of like, let's tie this around the guy's neck and he can't move. Like they've done this before. It's like, oh geez, these people are sketchy.
Yep. It's
but yeah, like it's
a weird kind of group of people.
They, like you said, they weren't very fleshed out. It was definitely we need a threat in this movie that isn't just the monsters. So let's make this random bandit group come in, and they're an issue as well.
Yeah, they're an interesting kind of people. I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of that whole sequence. I feel like I could have done without it. I feel like I would have had just as much fun at this movie if they had just done a sequence where like they encountered the monsters in the fucking wild on their truck to find this island, versus just having this group of people there.
Yep. But the part where it does like play in is it gives us that callback to Emmett learning the sign for dive, and like him giving Regan the sign like get in the fucking water.
Yeah. Also, this is a very interesting moment in this movie for me, at least, because after that encounter, obviously they hitch a ride on a boat and they make their way towards this island that they're looking for, where supposedly the radio waves have told them, hey, there's people here. It makes you wonder if the creatures can swim.
Oh, they definitely can't. No.
Yeah. Like, it's an interesting concept that they introduced slightly, and it's I'm interested to see how it plays out in in day one now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see how they figured that out and how it came to be and stuff like that. Because it was just such a weird thing that was kind of introduced, like, hey, there's nobody here.
Yeah,
Or
I
there's
got the
nothing
sense
on
that they
here.
can't swim because there's a point where I think one of them ends up in the water and it just like
Mhm.
flails around and sinks. So I'm pretty sure they can't swim. Especially with the way they're
Which
designed, like they don't look like
They're wonky.
they'd swim great.
No.
So,
They're wonky.
because like their thin ass legs wouldn't like get any traction on the water when they like paddle.
No, not unless it was like shallow and they could walk across it like a little tree thing.
Yeah. So like yeah, I gather that's how the island colony ended up coming to be because they realized these things can't swim, they can't get across large bodies of water, so an island is the safest place to be. Yay, Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. If anything ever happens, I'm coming to you. I will find a way. I'll get on a boat and start paddling. Probably won't make it, but
The other interesting thing about this movie is like before that encounter, Regan decides to head out on her own to try and find the radio signal so she can broadcast the interference across it and hopefully like injure or incapacitate all of the monsters in the process.
Yep.
We get some more moments of viewing the world through her perspective, and it's silent and again very chilling. But that's when the movie kind of splits into 3 simultaneous stories because we have Marcus and the baby being left alone because Evelyn decides she wants to go and like see.
she needs oxygen tanks for the baby.
That's right. She goes to find oxygen and meds for his busted up foot.
Yes. It was
That's right.
mainly the oxygen tanks though, because I'm pretty sure she'd be like, dude, suck it the fuck up. I don't give a shit if you have to amputate.
Yeah. And she also goes to like see does she go to the cross from the first kid in the first movie?
I think she passes it on the way to town because that's
on
one
their
of their
path.
areas that they have to, yeah.
Yeah.
So she like passes through like the old area on her like sand path and then continues on to town. Because it's the same town through the whole movie.
So yeah, like we get Marcus and the baby, they're left at the new compound. Again, this dumbass seemingly does everything possible to attract the monsters by slamming doors and slamming hatches, ultimately essentially destroying the entire hideout. Good job, Marcus. Useless prick.
Locking himself in the fucking tank because he's a fucking retard.
Yeah, he's not smart. And then Evelyn is ultimately forced to save him once again. So, but then yeah, she's off on her journey. Marcus and the baby are left there on their little, let's see how we play out. And then Regan is off on her journey. Emmett goes to find her and rescue her. So we have these 3 divergent stories all playing out at the same time. And we get a lot of mirrored storytelling in this section.
Yes.
Where like you'll see Regan and Emmett, there's fire. And then there's fire back at Marcus's.
Yep.
And it does like the switches back and forward. And then the savior for Regan and Emmett is them diving into the water. They go below the surface, all the sound stops. And it's like, okay, we're safe now. And then we cut back to Evelyn trying to rescue Marcus. And there's a great big fire going off, crazy shit's going down. And then the sprinkler system hits and it muffles the sound so she can move around because there's all this ambient noise. And then, like water becomes the savior for all of them. And that's kind of the biggest thread from this movie is water is the savior. Like if you get across a large enough body of water or where there's water, you are safe. And even in the first one, water is the safe place because like if you're near the waterfall or the creek,
they can't
pretty
hear
safe
you.
because there's all that noise.
Yeah, that was a genius idea on her part. Like she sacrificed one of those like oxygen tanks for the baby just to save everybody essentially. So, and it's a good thing she fucking took her shot and didn't fucking miss. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I did love that idea of like the mirrored storytelling. Like we had these 3 stories going, but they were all connected by like similar events, but in different ways happening to them.
Yes, it was great.
That was a very cool part. Like that was great. filmmaking and storytelling.
Yeah.
Lots of the plot holes, not so much. But then when we get Regan and Emmett, they get onto the island. They find that new colony who are not at all concerned with being silent. And you're like, what the heck is going on here? Why are they?
Yeah, they're out having barbecues
having
and fire
barbecues.
pits and
Yeah.
shit.
Playing around, kids yelling and screaming like, do these people know what's going on? Like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And then, we come to learn that, because the monsters can't swim, they're safe here until we see a boat has washed up on shore. And then they look at it and Emmett realizes that's the boat from the harbor. There is a monster on that boat. There's a monster on the island.
Yes. Yes.
So he's immediately trying to run back to warn Regan, warn everybody else. These people are already fucked because they're making too much noise. So the monster comes out, attacks some people. And then instead of like, oh, we know that noise attracts people, all of these dumbasses are running around like headless chickens, screaming and yelling like, get inside, do this, honking horns and shit. And you're like,
yes.
Guys, they're attracted to sound. Shut the fuck up.
Everybody just shut up.
Like you're all barefoot running around on grass. If you just don't scream, it won't know where you are.
Yeah. It was a concept that I don't think they even registered it because it happened so fast and they are so used to like one particular lifestyle. I don't think they even had an idea of how to like start with that.
Yeah, it made me sort of think that there was people on this island that like they barely got out and then they've already forgotten like what was happening. It's only been a year. And there was probably little kids that had never experienced it, but like...
Yeah, I was going to say there are like kids that are younger that were either like toddlers or something along those lines where they just grew up normal versus, the other family who they have a brand newborn baby and that baby is going to grow up in silence, literally. So it is a very polar opposite kind of experience.
And Jimon Honshu's character, Henry, he does give us a little bit of insight into how they sort of came to be on this island. He talks about there was a day where they were all at the harbor trying to get people out of the city. And like, I think he said like 3 boats got out fine. And then because people saw them, they actually escaped fine. There started to be like a crush and like the crowd trying to get out quicker. And then by doing that, they made noise. And then ultimately the rest of the boats failed to escape.
Yep.
But then this is another part where I was like a little bit sketched and confused. They do realize that boat motors are quite loud, right?
I mean, yeah, but if they can't swim.
Yeah, but you got to be on shore to get on the fucking boat.
It's fine.
What are they, speedboats? They just like load everyone on, then just go, and they get far enough away that the monster can't get them?
Maybe it's just because there's so much chaos going on at one point in time, like the monsters are already preoccupied, so they don't really know where to go. Maybe. That's the only thing I can think of is like they're heavily occupied and distracted so that they're overstimulated or something. So it's like a perfect opportunity to just...
Yeah. It was weird. But I guess we'll see. I think that's going to be like the final sequence of A Quiet Place Day 1. That's obviously going to build to that moment where now that I know that Henry is in Day 1, the penultimate sequence of the end of that movie is going to be we're at the harbor. This is the escape.
I hope that there is a transition at the end of Day 1 that puts us somewhere that makes sense with the series. It's going to be kind of hard because they can't put it like at the end.
It's got to like cut to the moment where Emmett and Regan arrive on the island, surely.
Yeah, but then at the same time, it wouldn't be like a prequel. If they're trying to spin it as a prequel, then and they put it at the like end of A Quiet Place Part 2, then that kind of defeats that whole prequel idea. But if they're going on it solely as like a spin-off only and like a side story, then yeah, I could see that working. Otherwise, they'd have to like just leave it as like this is a, you know, broadcast, or like them trying to broadcast something and Reagan's dad picking up on it maybe. Because
Yeah.
that was the whole thing, is like she kept telling Emmett that he was a liar because her dad would have heard the radio calls
Yeah.
beforehand and tried to find somebody. So I'm wondering if maybe it'll pan to like a radio call that was picked up but never like actually acted upon maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm interested to see how it plays out, but I guess it'll depend on, is Cillian Murphy in day one?
I don't believe so.
I was going to say it'll depend on how available he is, because he's
I was going
pretty
to say,
high
if
demand
he
at the
is,
moment.
that was a sleeper that I missed.
No. So by the looks of this, Jimon Honshu is the only
Crossover.
character that crosses over. So I imagine he's either going to be, yeah, we might see him send out a broadcast, and then obviously because Krasinski is involved in the movies, they can do that tie-in.
And
Of
like maybe
he
pan to like
hears the signal or something and ignores it because he's like, I'm not like confident that it's safe. I want to hear it a couple of times, and then he never hears it, picks it up again.
yeah, even if they don't show Krasinski, but they just show like maybe like him from like the back end at like his like table where it had like all the radio equipment and stuff like that. Anything just to show that would be that would be a good way to show it as a prequel, and then the spinoff would be like them going onto the island and meeting up with Cillian Murphy's character. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited though.
Some of the trivia I wrote down is Krasinski wasn't like a big fan of doing a sequel initially. He sort of said no a few times, and then was eventually talked into it by Paramount and some of the other producers and co-writers and stuff. But then when he finally did decide, okay, we're going to do a sequel, he wrote the first draft for the screenplay in 3.5 weeks.
That's pretty good. Maybe more people should hire him to write screenplays for them, because maybe things would get out faster.
Yeah, I think he was just like hesitant of like, oh, we had such a great success with the first one.
Let's not ruin it.
Like, what do we do with a sequel? Like, how do we make that make sense? And obviously was hesitant. I imagine when it was first brought up to him, he was probably already like thinking, how can we do this? How can we do this? And then once he finally did sit down, he probably had a rough idea, and then obviously in 3 weeks was able to refine it and came up with this, which was very well done.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, the budget shot up, box office dipped, but I think obviously still happy. Again, they managed to shoot this in only 47 days, 11 days longer than the original, but given
still short
the amount of action and like big action sequences, still very short.
Oh yeah.
And like location wise too, like it's not all one location. Like this is 3, 4, 5 different locations that they had to film in.
Yeah.
So really well done.
Oh yeah.
In terms of a rating for A Quiet Place Part 2, what would you give this one?
So I give this one a 4 as well, like I did the original, but I actually favorite this one over the original. And no, it's fine. Don't worry. It's okay to be wrong. I liked it just because we got to see the kids kind of grow and really take on their own kind of like personas, and like Reagan
the kids become a much bigger part of the movie.
Yeah, Reagan really took the reins and was like a badass, and she's like, I want to be able to like save and help people. So I really give her credit for kind of taking initiative, even though she wasn't supposed to. And even though the brother was a little bitch, he shows his like true colors at the end of it and really pulls through.
Yeah, he does grow a set at the end, finally.
Yeah, I love the mirroring storytelling again at the end. Like the ending for that was fantastic. So I think that's why I favored this, is literally that end sequence actually probably did it for me because I liked it so much.
Okay. I gave this one a 4. I thought the original was better because it was just so groundbreaking. Like with the very sparse use of sound at all. I thought that was great. This one was a bit too actiony, a bit too split. Like, even though we do get all those mirrored elements, it was just a little bit too disjointed and split up for me. I didn't feel like it flowed that well. Regan, I did enjoy a lot in this one. Evelyn was fine, but I thought she was a better character in the first one. I just thought a lot of the character development was stronger in the first one, probably because they were all together and they were all able to bounce off each other a bit more, whereas this one, there was a lot of split up.
Yes.
I'm interested to see, obviously the next one in the universe is Day One, so that's separate enough. I'm interested to see what they do with part 3. Like, do we
'cause
take...
it's eventually going to have to get it with the family getting reconnected somehow.
Yeah, like, are we going to immediately continue on from day 480-ish?
Yeah.
Like, close to the end timeline of 2? Or are we going to get a big jump and it's like a Regan story? Like her
It's
going
be
out and
interesting
like
to see what they do.
finishing and continuing this fight and like trying to clear out as many monsters as she can.
I'd like to see them continue it just because it'd be nice to see like what happens with the family as a whole if they do find each other. But at the same time, like she told her brother, like, listen and everything like that. But then they're also dealing with their own monster. So who's to say that like that radio didn't get damaged and he didn't hear anything on the radio? So they just kind of don't know what to do at that point. And either they go out on their own and so on and so forth. Like, it would be interesting to see like the start of something and then maybe get a time jump where
we get a big
Regan...
time jump in the first one, so it makes sense like the halfway through the time jump to see how it's progressing. But I personally envision it just being like, we're gonna do maybe 5 or 10 days for them to make their way to the island and reconnect, and then we just continue from there straight on. Like, and then if we want to jump further into the future, do a Regan spin-off, we can do that. Like we can do like we've done with Day One in 2028 or whatever. We can do a spin-off of Regan's story as an adult, how she's now continuing in this world as a deaf adult with her family all gone.
Yeah. it'd be interesting to see where they're going to go with the franchise.
But yeah, until then, we will be back for Quiet Place Day 1 when that hits. So thank you for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Karina on Instagram at Miss Karina Renee, and you can follow me on social media at Jamraps Media and at Pario Magazine. The commentary booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.